everybody. We're excited to see all of you. It's great to have you here. We wanted to open up class and just have a minute. We're going to have an official time slot later where we'll have lots of time for questions, but we just wanted to check in and make sure the practicing went okay and see if anybody had any pressing questions before we jump in and get started.
So feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions or anything that you want to make sure that we can cover today. We're happy to do so. If not, we can just jump in.
Yeah, we'll just jump in then. We also just wanted to put on your radar, we will talk about this several more times in class, and then we'll talk about it at the end of class, but 2 weeks from today, we're going to be doing our first performance for the class. And the performance is going to be very exciting and very low key. It's not, we're not going to put a ton of pressure on you. The point of the performance is not to play the piano perfectly or to show up and, have a perfect performance. It's really just a chance to connect with each other about, how we're doing in the class, what you've learned, what you can play, and where you're at. So the performance requirements are very open. You can play anything that we've done in the class. That could be the very first piece that we went over last week, Summer Night. That would be completely fine. Or it could be something that we're going to learn next week, and that would be fine also. But we just want to put that on your radar in 2 weeks. And so next week in class, we will be meeting at the beginning of class. We'll do breakout rooms, and you'll each get a chance to meet with an instructor one-on-one so that you can kind of check in and play the piece and ask questions and all of that. So that's on your radar now. We'll talk about it a little more as we get going. But since nobody has any questions, we will just jump in, and there will be more time for questions later. Oh, go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add that you are more than welcome to invite your friends, family, spouse, whatever, to the performance on the week 4. Basically, I think what we're going to be able to do is lecture for the first hour, and then starting at 7, we'll have our little mini performance. Again, like Ashley said, whatever piece you want to play, you're more than welcome to have food or beverages of your choice, whatever that might be. Make it more of a celebration and make it really fun and really chill, kind of like an open mic sort of vibe. So again, we'll do the breakout rooms next week and get you all feeling good about that, but feel free to invite people to watch and support.
Great. Alrighty. Then let's go ahead and get started. So we are going to start today's class with the listening that we did not get to last week. We're going to be listening to Humoresque. It's a piece that is the tune was written by Dvorak, and this version is arranged by Art Tatum, and Stephanie's going to tell you a little bit about it.
Yes, so I absolutely love Art Tatum's playing. He was one of the first jazz pianists that really set the precedent for technical virtuosity at the piano when it comes to jazz piano. Some of the greatest pianists studied with him, such as Oscar Peterson. Namely, if you haven't heard of him, definitely go check out his music. The way that these pianists play is absolutely mind-blowing, and what's even more astounding is that Art Tatum was legally blind, so he couldn't see what he was doing, and he was never trained in any kind of formal manner, yet has just insane playing ability. So yeah, I'm excited to share this piece that he performed. It's Humoresque, which was written by Anton Dvorak, which is a classical composer, as it were, but he does a really wonderful twist on it as a jazz piece. So here we go. And let me know if you can't hear it. Everybody hear it? that just blows my mind every time I watch it. It's so beautiful.
It makes me giddy.
All right, I know. So anyway, if you had any issues hearing it, it's on the Google Slides. So feel free to go ahead and go back on your own time and listen to it and share it. And we're going to talk a lot today about major and minor tonalities, such as happy and sad sounds, tempo, like speed in music, dynamics, articulations, mood, emotion. So we'll kind of come back to some more listening later on and be able to apply some of the musical terms. When we listen to music, we can use some musical terms. So, all right, I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, and she's going to review the notes on the grand staff.
Great. So we've got the notes on the grand staff. Hopefully today you feel slightly or a little more confident than you did last week with notes on the grand staff. I just wanted to do a little check-in and have you raise your hand if you know one or more notes on the grand staff. Do you know middle C? Can you find middle C? Excellent. Okay, what if you know, keep your hand up if you know 5 or more notes pretty comfortably on the grand staff. Okay, awesome. If you know 10 or more notes on the grand staff. Okay, cool. Great. We've got some studiers in this class. That's great. Okay, so for next week, it would be awesome if you could continue to study the notes on the grand staff and just try to extend that to about double of what you know now. So if you know 5 and you're really confident with 5 notes, try to know 10 by next week. If you know 10 and you're really confident with 10 notes, see if you can come to class next week knowing 20. The goal is that eventually we would be pretty comfortable reading from this low C down here a little bit below the bass clef to this high C. And really within that, I'm gonna actually, oh yeah, you can't see my mouse. I'm gonna annotate for you. Really, we wanna be especially confident from like here and here. The little 2 notes down here and the little 3 notes up here, those are like your bonus notes. But try to know at least those within the next couple of weeks. So I wanted to leave some space and kind of open it up and see if anybody had any questions. This is a little bit of a different visual. Does anybody have any tips or anything they'd like to share about studying the notes on the grand staff, or if you need any help? Go ahead. I can't see all of you unless I scroll through, so go ahead and unmute and chime in if you'd like to. If not, we will move on. Oh yeah,
It looks like nobody has a question.
Yeah, what's up?
It's Ashley. I just wanted to say that I really like the flashcards. It's I don't know, it's just a really nice way to study them.
Yes, I completely agree. I'm a flashcard person, and I think I said last week I've never met a student that can't learn with flashcards for note reading, at least. They're a great way to practice, and a lot of the apps or the websites that you'll go to practice the notes will basically be like gamified versions of flashcards, because it's just a great way to learn them. So I'm so glad that that was helpful for you, and I saw a thumbs up from someone else too, so that's great. Any other comments or questions? I had an adult student once, and this was before Netflix. Although I guess, and Hulu and all of that, if you still have ads, this person was telling me that they would just practice their flashcards at the commercials when they were watching stuff. So it can be small amounts of time. That's fine. All right, we can go ahead and go on from this slide then. We don't have anything to review if nobody has questions.
Do you want to maybe do a couple just testing people to see if they can read the notes, or do you want to just move ahead?
I mean, I can do it if you're going to make me stuff. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so let's go ahead. So I can go ahead and draw some notes here. So let's see. Jill, can you tell me what this note is?
That's middle C.
Yes! Good job. Okay, I'm going to cross that out. We're done with that one. Jason, what about this one? You're muted.
Can you mute yourself?
But I can see you maybe answering.
F?
So close. So close. So F is right here. And so this one is 1 up from F.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good. So that one's G.
A. G.
Close. It's G.
Yes.
Yes.
F, G.
It's G.
I told you long day.
That's okay. No problem. You were very, very close. Okay, let's go ahead and do, let's see, Melissa Miracle, can you name this one?
E.
Yes, good. Okay, Tracy, what about this one in the bass clef?
Sorry, you got me. Bass
That's
clef is
okay.
my weak zone.
That's great. So let's just go.
C B A G G.
Yes, exactly. And I love that you counted down because that's what I was going to suggest. So it's really helpful to kind of think of that middle C if you can remember the middle C and count up or down if you can't find the note or you don't know it right offhand. So C is this line, B would be the space below it, A would be this line, and so this one is G. And it's always harder to go down because we have to, of course, say the musical alphabet backwards. So you're a trooper. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, let's do another bass clef one. Anya, what is this one?
E.
Yes, nice. Okay, and then let's do, here, I'll put it on the screen. And let's see, Yesenia, do you know this one?
So I have to count down. E. C.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay, you're all doing so well. We can go
I think
on.
that they got it.
Yeah, you
Right.
all got it. Okay, so we are now going to look at some dynamic symbols. If you look through the slides from last week, you might have seen these, but we didn't get a chance to talk about them. So dynamics, in music, you'll hear people talk about dynamics. And essentially when we talk about dynamics, we're referring to the volume. So the variations of the volume between the notes. And we have these symbols and some more symbols as well that we'll talk about later that tell us exactly how loud or quiet to play the notes. So let's see. This one that's over on the left, the P, this is piano. It stands for piano and it means quiet. Then we have the MP, that's mezzo piano, and it means moderately quiet, so it's a little bit louder. Then we have mezzo forte, which is moderately loud, and then forte, which is loud. So from quietest to loudest, we have piano, mezzo forte, and forte. And a story that I like to share is that a lot of our terms that we have are Italian. The inventor of the modern day piano as we know it today, his name was Cristofori, and he was an Italian man. And the full name for the piano that I need to learn, but I haven't yet. In Italian, it's something forte e piano. And the direct translation is the keyboard instrument that can play both loud and quiet. And so we don't say the whole entire name in Italian, but it's been shortened to piano. And that's where the name of the piano comes from. It's the first keyboard instrument that had the ability to play loud sounds and quiet sounds. Before the forte piano or the piano, we had the harpsichord and the clavichord, which were both keyboard instruments, but they didn't have dynamic ability and dynamic control. So that might help you remember piano is quiet. And then if you can remember mezzo piano, mezzo forte, and forte. Alrighty. Any questions about dynamics? So when we think about how to play dynamics on our piano, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One of the things that I like to experiment with and to have students experiment with is this idea of kind of assigning numbers. So if I play the loudest sound that I can play, well, hang on. If I play the loudest sound I can play, that might be a 10. And if I play the quietest sound I can play, that might be a 1. And so we can kind of add a numeric value to them, and that helps them be a little bit more clear because quiet and loud are kind of ambiguous. And so quiet or piano we would say is like a 1, forte is 10, so maybe mezzo piano is 4 and maybe mezzo forte is 7. And so then that gives you a goal. And so you can experiment on your instrument with making these different sounds and learning what kind of control it takes. And when we think about varying our dynamics, we don't just want to play with our fingers. Our fingers don't have a lot of power or control, and we really need to think about engaging the rest of our hand and our wrist and our arm and our elbow and our shoulder and our whole body. And so when we play any dynamic level, whether it's loud or quiet, it's all about letting the weight of our arm drop into the keys and making sure that we get to the very bottom of the key bed, which is when the key stops. You know, when you can't go any further, you've made it to the bottom of the key bed. And we want to drop into the keys with varying speeds and with varying pressures. So when I want to play forte, I'm going to drop kind of fast, and I'm going to really loosen up my elbows and my shoulders. But what I'm not doing is I'm not just hitting the keys, right? You can see that it's not just my hand that's striking the keys. It's actually my whole upper body is kind of leaning, and I'm also using my elbows to help round out that sound. Now, the same is true when I try to play piano. I'm still using my elbows to round out the sound. You can see my wrists are going up and down. I'm just going a little bit slower, and I'm using a little bit more of a gentle touch. And so those are some things to keep in mind when we're playing these dynamics, just so that you are producing a sound that is lovely, ultimately. We don't want to produce a sound that, when we're playing forte, is really harsh to our ears, and it's easy when we're playing quiet to not have a sound. And so we want to make sure that we're still letting the weight of our arm drop into the key, and that will make sure that you are producing a sound still. Okay, so on your own time, in your own practice, I want you to experiment and see if you can play many different keys at a volume 1 or piano, and then see if you can play many different keys, volume 10, forte, and then see if you can find the different dynamics in between. Can you find something that's mezzo piano, so on the quiet side, but not as quiet as piano? Can you find something that's mezzo forte, so it's on the louder side, but it's not as loud as forte? All right, let's go ahead and go on. Well, does anybody have questions? Let me open it up to questions really quick.
Are there varying degrees of piano and forte? Because I've seen the Fs like doubled up or tripled up. Does that mean like extra loud?
Yes, that's exactly. It means very dramatically loud. So if you see 2 Fs, it's fortissimo. If you see 3 Fs, it's fortissimo. Each letter just adds an is. So 2 Ps is pianissimo, 3 Ps is pianissimo, and it's just, you know, more of that. And then there's also a couple of other dynamic symbols that we'll talk about in the next couple of weeks as well. Good question.
I wish they would have been a little bit more creative about pianissimo. All right, so we're going to talk about time signatures now. And time signatures tell you important information about the piece that you play. The 2 numbers stacked on top of each other at the beginning of your music is called the time signature. And you can always find the time signature right after the clef sign in your music. So the 3 most common time signatures that you're going to find are 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4, or C. So C is short for common time, and common time is 4/4. It's named common time because 4/4 is the most common time signature that you will see in music. So like I mentioned, the top number tells you how many beats are in each measure. A measure is a grouping of notes divided by bar lines, which we'll see in just a moment here. The top number tells you how many beats are in each measure, and the bottom number tells you what type of note receives 1 count. So don't get too tripped up about this at the moment. Just know that the 4 means that the quarter note gets 1 beat, and that this can change, and it will change in the future as you play more complicated music. But for now, just know that the quarter note gets 1 count, just like we taught you in the first class. So again, top number tells you how many beats are in each measure. Bottom number tells you what type of note receives 1 count. And know that C, which is short for common time, is the same as 4/4. So if you see a C in the place of a time signature, know that it's common time and that it's telling you to play in 4/4. So let's go ahead and take a look at these in action. All right, so here we have 4/4. So we talked about how we have 4 beats in each measure, which is indicated at the top. So sure enough, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, even though there isn't a note in place, there's a rest value in place. Rests are created equal in terms of note values. So a rest is a specific amount of time to be silent. So you must be silent for exactly 1 beat. So if you were to listen to this, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So basically what you're doing as you're counting out loud is you're marking the beat. So again, just to reiterate, a measure is a grouping of notes. So this is a measure, and it's divided by a bar line. Measure, bar line, etc., right? Measure, bar line, measure, bar line. The top number tells you how many beats are in each measure. It could be any combination of note values as long as it equates out to 4 beats. So we could also have 2 half notes in this measure. We could have a dotted half note and a quarter note. The bottom line is that there must be the equivalent of 4 quarter notes in each measure, but how that looks is subject to change depending on what kind of note values you have. So let's go ahead and just clap together. Before we assign numbers to each beat, we're just going to go ahead and clap the note value. This is pretty easy, but I just want to have us go ahead and count the rhythm and clap. So I'll demonstrate first, then you guys can jump in. So we're going to go ahead and just clap 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, rest. So we're not even going to assign numbers to beats right now. We're just going to go ahead and get a steady beat and clap the rhythm with the quarter notes. All right, ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, rest. Awesome. All right, super easy. So now we're going to go ahead and assign numbers to the beats. So 1, 2, 3, oopsies, that's a 2. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oopsies. You get the point, though, I think. 4. Boom. Oh my gosh, seriously. You get the point. Thank you. Jeez Louise. Okay, here we go. So let's go ahead and try clapping now. So we're going to clap 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you still have to count this beat 4 even though it's a rest. So can we go ahead and try that together again? But this time we're going to count to 4 because there are 4 beats in each measure. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Easy. Cool. So we're going to sort out this next rhythm here, and then I'm going to have you guys play these pieces now that you, A, have the ability to recognize rhythms, B, have the ability to read notes, and C, can now recognize time signatures. So boom. All right, let's take a look at 3, 4 here. So now we have 3 beats in each measure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you guys are too good, so I'm just going to throw you in the deep end here. We're going to go ahead and put our counting out loud. So when you're learning a piece, honestly, I think it's really helpful to just write out how you're going to count the piece. That way you don't have to think about a million things at once. So, and the same thing's going to happen. I know it. Yep, exactly. So I need you all to know that this is beat 3 because Zoom is smarter than me. All right, here we go. So we're going to go ahead and try from the beginning. I'll demonstrate the first time and then you guys can jump in. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, some people ask, well, what's the purpose of having different time signatures? Does anybody have any guesses? Why do you think it would be helpful to have more than one time signature? Nada? No one?
I think someone is unmuting.
Oh, wonderful.
So you can have different rhythms.
Yeah, so you can have different rhythms. A big significant thing about time signatures is that they change the feel of a piece. So 4/4, Old MacDonald had a farm is very march-esque, right? So a lot of songs that have a march feel are going to be in 4/4. Whereas this song, Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush, has more of a waltz feel. So 3/4 is like, here we go round the mulberry bush. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? So just by changing how many beats are in each measure, you completely change the feel of a piece. So it's pretty significant when you really think about it. 4/4, think about a march. 3/4 is more like a dance. And yeah, it changes the rhythm. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and clap this one more time, and then I'm gonna have you guys play this with me on the piano. Let's clap it one more time. And think about emphasizing the downbeat of 1, since 3/4 is more felt like a waltz. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna skip this bottom one here because it has eighth notes in it, and we're gonna cover that later on in the class, but not right now. So let's go back to number 1, and you guys can go ahead and just follow along with me here. I'm gonna clear my numbers. All right, so now we know the rhythm. First things first, whenever you're learning a piece, get to know the rhythm. The rhythm is like the skeleton of the piece, right? If we didn't have a skeleton, we would be a blob on the floor, even though it's nice to have skin and flesh and hair and everything. So whenever you're learning a piece, think about learning the rhythm first and have it really solid. Then you can add on the notes. So let's add on the notes now. All right, so let's see here. Susie, can you read the notes of Old MacDonald Had a Farm?
Yes, that looks like G, 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 D, E, E, D.
Beautiful, good job. All right, so wild applause. All right, so even though there aren't finger numbers in, I'm going to help you out here because mostly I want you to have a sense of understanding key signatures and being able to play the notes with the rhythm. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you to start with finger 4 because it's helping me set up for notes that are lower. So I'm going to go ahead and play it and count it out loud. And I would recommend that you go through these on your own time and count out loud too. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to jump us in and clap or play and count out loud, and feel free to jump in with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, rest. So right off the bat then we take our rhythm and we take our note reading and we line it all up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, rest. So then we take a look at the second one. Let's see here. Who can read the second line? Jill, can you read the second line for us?
Yep, that's F, 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 A, C, C, A, F.
Beautiful, good. Nice job. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and let me make sure y'all can see my hand here. There we go, okay. Yep, so we're gonna start on the F above middle C. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So again, the whole concept, even though there aren't finger numbers written in, I can look at the landscape of the melody and notice, oh, these notes are going higher. So probably wouldn't make sense to start with finger 5, right? So you want to start with finger numbers that are going to allow you to play the full range of the keyboard and the melody. So then let's go ahead and play it and count it out loud. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there you go. That is a good way to incorporate time signatures and rhythms. Any questions with that before we move on? Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and segue into articulation. This is a very easy concept to understand, so we won't spend too much time on it. Articulations tell us how to play the specific note or chord. So articulations, music is a language, so a lot of these words are related as language would be related. Articulations tell you how you play the note or chord. So legato is Italian for smooth and connected. And a curved line over notes that are different on a staff is called a slur. A slur means to play legato. Legato is just a fancy word for smooth and connected. It's in Italian. All these musical terms are in Italian. So whenever you see a curved line over the notes, you need to play it slurred or legato. So here we have a slur. Very connected and smooth, right? That's one type of articulation. Staccato is Italian. Actually, just a second, can you guys all on the piano, just maybe you could play C, D, E on the piano with fingers 2, 3, 4 on middle C. And I want you to think about, legato's like walking, it's like walking down the street. One foot is always on the ground while the other one's getting picked up, right? So that's all legato really means. It's like walking. So why don't you guys just experiment on your keyboard. You can do what I'm doing or do something else, but you're just thinking about walking on the keys and connecting your steps. You could also go for a walk. 2, 3, da, 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 da. But legato is really just a matter of playing smooth and connected. It's a type of articulation. Now we have staccato. Staccato is the opposite. Staccato means to play short and detached. And I like to call this with my kids, it's the popcorn articulation, because there's a piece of popcorn coming out of the note head, right? So has a much bouncier sound. So what I'd recommend to try this out, just you can try out and be short and detached, or the popcorn articulation. So just experiment. A great way to practice is to choose maybe 3 notes, C, D, E, and think legato, staccato, legato, staccato, legato, staccato. You can really start to hear the difference after a while. And then we have an accent, and that just means to play the note with intensity. So there are other types of articulations, but these are the most common that you'll see. So while practicing, be aware of how you're playing the note. So there's so many things to keep track of, but it really comes together nicely. So let's just experiment. I'm going to say legato, and I'm going to have you just play legato until I say staccato, and then you're going to switch to staccato, and then I'm going to say accent, and then you're going to play accent, and then legato. So I'm just going to kind of say the different words, and I'd like you to switch up the articulation as you go. All right. Legato. Good. How about staccato? How about accent? How about legato? How about accent? How about staccato? How about legato? All right, so we got legato, staccato, and accent. Any questions with those? No? Pretty straightforward. I thought you guys would get it. All right, so I'm going to touch on one more thing, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ashley here. So tempo is the word for speed in music. And allegro is the Italian word for fast and lively. Moderato means moderate. Andante means walking speed, and adagio means slow. So I'm going to do an exercise, and I like to do it mostly to get the blood flowing. So go ahead and stand up with me. All right, so this is what I call the tempo game. And yes, I did make it up, which is kind of like, you know, like when somebody tells you a joke and you're like, did you make that joke up? All right, so, but I think this is really helpful. So when I say allegro, I want you guys to do a running motion. And honestly, I can't see you, A, and B, it's good to move the body because this is like an hour and a half of you just sitting. So I think that you'll be great. Maybe you like it, and if not, let me know. But you're going to remember your tempos. That's what's most important. All right, do a running motion. All right, so that. All you have to say, extra chill day, and then adagio means slow. So it means that you're moving really, really slowly. Maybe you could even crawl on the ground, get creative. So I'm going to go from allegro, moderato, andante, and then adagio. And you're going to do the motion and the translation in English, all right? So we're going to go ahead and just go from top to bottom, and I want you to do the movement that's associated with the tempo. All right, here we go. Allegro, allegro, allegro. Fast and lively, fast and lively, fast and lively. Moderato, moderate, moderato, moderate. Andante, walking pace. Andante, walking pace. Adagio is slow. All right, too easy. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the screen off. All right, let's all try it from the top. And I'm going to now say the English word, and you're going to say the Italian word. So I'm going to say fast and lively, and you're going to say allegro, 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 allegro. Or I'm going to say moderate. I'm going to tell you the answer. Moderate, and you're going to say moderato. I say moderate, you say moderato. All right, you get it. Okay. Slow. Adagio. Good. All right. I actually feel like I want you guys to unmute for this. Okay. Slow. What is it?
Adagio.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Walking pace. What do we got?
Andante.
Thank you, Susie. I hope you all are saying what Susie's saying. Moderate.
Moderato.
Good. Fast and lively, fast and lively, fast and lively.
Andante.
Allegro.
Allegro. Slow.
Adagio.
Fast and lively, fast and lively, fast and lively.
Allegro.
Allegro.
Walking pace.
Andante.
Thank you. All right. So go ahead and have a seat. All right. And I'm going to hand it over to Ashley here in just a second, but I want to finish up with on your metronomes. Metronomes tell you how fast or slow you can go. Your metronomes can go to any specific BPM or beats per minute. So if you put your metronome onto 120, then that's going to beep for 120 beats per minute. So that's right around where allegro is. So if you guys can hear that, that tells you that you're going to play fast and lively, and this is how many beats are happening per minute. Moderato is about 100 to 120, so you just pop it onto your metronome. It's a number, and it tells you how many beeps happen per minute. So these are the 4 most common tempo markings, although there are many. And so just like dynamics or articulations, you want to take into account the tempo of a piece, and it's almost always found at the top of your music. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Ashley. Yeah.
Okay, now if you don't have a metronome, you can also go to, there are lots of free metronome apps. And so you can also Google metronome. If you just type into Google metronome, Google actually has a metronome. And so if you don't have one, that would be something else that you could do. Okay, how about, so we're gonna listen to some of them. So we've got a couple of different musical examples with different articulations and some other musical symbols that we've been talking about. And we'll just go through these kind of quickly because we're also gonna see some of these markings in the music that we're working on. But this tempo here is allegro, which as we just talked about is fast and lively. They actually give a tempo suggestion. You won't always see this, but they've suggested that the dotted half note would be 90. And that actually means that that 90 would be every 3 beats. So that's like 90 times 3. That would be really fast. I'll show you what that sounds like here. So I'm going to turn on my metronome. Got this handy dandy penguin. Okay, so here's 90. And that would be 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. That's fast. And that's also pianissimo, which someone asked about dynamics that have an extra letter. So this is extra quiet. It's very dramatically quiet. And it's staccato because it has these little dots over it. So you can see how all 3 of those things contribute to the feel of this little example. So now I'm going to play it and I'm not going to count so you can hear what it sounds like. you get the idea. It's very fast, very light, and that's the sound of that little example. This next one doesn't have a tempo marking, but we do have these legato symbols. And so I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to play this one for you. And I'm just going to assume that this is adagio, so I'm going to play it slow. So very smooth and connected and much slower than the first one. And we'll be talking more about these as we continue on with our pieces that we're going to learn today. All right. Next, we're going to talk about intervals. Intervals are really fun because they are essentially patterns in music that are going to help you become better at music reading. An interval is the distance between two notes. That's the very simple definition. And so we can see that distance written out on the staff, and we can see that distance actually on our keyboards between the notes. When we are talking about the distance between two notes that are played separately, it's a melodic interval. So like this. That's a melodic interval. It's played like a melody. The notes are separate. When we are talking about two notes that are played at the same time, it's a harmonic interval, meaning they're played together like harmony. So intervals are wonderful. I love intervals because they just make music reading more simple because they give you another tool beyond just note names to help you read music. So here at the top of the screen, you can see we've got melodic intervals. And our melodic intervals, we have a unison, which is just the same note. It's a repeated note. The next one we have is a second. And an interval of a second is from one key to the next key. And so it's also a step. We talked about steps last week. So like from C to D is a second, or D to E is a second. And on the staff, a second goes from one line to the very next space, or vice versa. So there's steps on the staff as well because they're going from one note to the next note. They're also one letter away in the musical alphabet. Now a third is a skip. A third is going to have a note in between it. So from C to E is a third. And once we start getting into the bigger intervals, the way that we count is we always count the first note as 1. So C would be 1, then D is 2, and then E is 3. So that's a third. And you can see on the staff that a third goes from a line to a line in this case. And that's always going to be the case of a third. It goes from a line to the very next line, or if it's on a different note, a space to the very next space. That's how you recognize the interval of a third. A fourth is from C to F. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a fourth. And on the staff, same thing. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4. So you count all the lines and spaces, including the lines and spaces that the notes are on, and that gets you to the interval. Then we have fifths that sound like this, sixths, sevenths, and an octave, which is an eighth. Oct means 8, so an eighth is more commonly called an octave than an eighth. Now, an octave, it's important to notice that when you play an octave, if I start on C and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, an octave is from one note to the next note that is the same. So from C to C, or from D to D, from E to E, all of those are octaves when we go to the next note. So I just played for you a lot of melodic intervals. I played them one at a time. Each note was played separately. We can also have these exact same intervals played together or harmonically, and we get a different sound. So
Ashley?
Oh my gosh. Yes, hello. I'm so sorry, everybody. Was I cutting out really bad that whole time?
We heard you up to harmonic intervals, so.
Got it. Sorry about that. Zoom kicked me off. I was very surprised. So a harmonic interval is two notes played at the same time, and the distances remain the same between the melodic intervals and the harmonic intervals. So a unison cannot be played at the same time. So that's just, I'm going to cross that out. But a second, same, C to D, played at the same time. A third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh, and an eighth, or as it's more commonly known, an octave. So intervals don't always go from C. They can start on any note, but the way that you count the distance between the notes remains the same, regardless of what note you're starting on. So let's practice some of them together. We go to the next slide, please. So we're going to do a second together. So everybody put your thumb on C and your second finger on D and play those back and forth and see how it sounds. C to D. I like to say second, second, second. You could say melodic second, melodic second. Now let's play them together. And that's our harmonic second. Now let's do that somewhere else on the piano. Let's move our thumb to G. And if we put our thumb on G, we can count to the very next note, which would be A, and that is also a second. So let's practice going from G to A. G to A, G to A, melodic second. Now let's play them harmonically together at the same time. Nice. Okay, let's go back to C. And now we're going to put our thumb on C and we're going to play C to E. If we keep our fingers one on each key, E will be with our third finger. So let's use our third finger. C, E, C, E, C, E, melodic. Now let's play them together harmonically. Good. Now let's play C to F with 1 and 4. That's our fourth. And let's play them harmonically together. Let's do that with 1 and 5 from C to G. That's a fifth. Now let's do that harmonically. Cool. Now you might notice as you're playing from intervals second, third, fourth, and fifth, if you keep one finger on each key that's next to themselves, that are next to the other keys, your intervals are matching your finger numbers. Now that's not always the case, but these intervals can help us start to memorize how it feels to play the distance between two notes. So a second, a lot of the times, is played between, my thumb and my second finger, or my second and my third finger, which makes sense because those are the fingers that are right next to each other and they're playing notes that are right next to each other. Whereas a skip or a third is usually played with 1 and 3, skipping a finger in between, or 2 and 4, skipping a finger in between. So the intervals, how they lie on the piano, matches how you play them with your fingers. Now that is true until you get to a fifth. When we play a sixth, we're going to put our thumb on C, and now we're going to stretch our pinky a little bit up to reach A. And we're going to play C, A, C, A, with C on the bottom and A on the top. That is a sixth, and let's play it harmonically. Now let's stretch our pinky a little more up to B, and we're going to play C, B. And now let's play it harmonically. That's a seventh. Now if I stretch my pinky up to C, that's an octave, and I can play them together. So those are all of our intervals. We're going to look at a lot of them in our music, and we're going to show you where they are in your music and how to find them because it's a really useful tool. Intervals are patterns. And ultimately, when you get to the point that you can read music fluently, you're not looking at individual notes and trying to process every single individual note on its own. It's somewhat like learning how to read in a language. And if we take English as an example, you learn your alphabet, you learn your letters, and then you learn a couple of sounds together like CH and SH. That's the intervals. It's those two sounds together. And then you eventually learn how to read whole entire words, which would be like chords or larger patterns in our music. And so intervals are super important because it's our first chance to combine two letters, two sounds at the same time into a pattern that will help us get to the point that we can process music quicker than reading individual notes. So we'll be practicing them today in class, and then I highly suggest you come back to these slides in your own practice and review all of these intervals and practice starting them on different notes and listening to what they sound like and feel what they feel like underneath your hand. All of that will be very helpful. Does anybody have questions about intervals? All right, by your faces, you've either totally got it or you're completely lost. Okay, we're gonna do some practice. So I've got a little worksheet up on the screen now, and we have an opportunity to practice with some of these intervals. So here in the left column over here, we're gonna start with number 1. You can see there's a treble clef, and I don't know, is this blurry for all of you? It's a tiny bit blurry. So I'll do this first one. So this is a G here in the treble clef. And all of these columns here on the left, here in the middle, and here on the right, these are going to be intervals that have a G in them. Okay. So in this case, G is our very first note, and it's on a line, and then we're going up to the space right above it. So does anyone want to unmute and tell me what this interval is right here?
Well,
What was that? Yeah, Tracy?
Tracy.
So the second one is just one step.
Yeah. So
The
it's a
4/4
second.
time?
Exactly. Yeah. So one step from G to A is a second. And Tracy, do you know if it's melodic or harmonic?
Oh gosh, melodic.
Yes, good.
Nice.
So this one is
Melodic?
melodic. So you could put M there.
Melodic.
For melodic. Perfect. Awesome, Tracy. Thank you. Okay, let's do another one. Let's do the middle column. So here, in case you can't see, I'm going to help you out because it's kind of blurry on my screen, but I know that the bottom note is a C and the top note is a G. So if you look at your piano and count C as 1 and count up to G, what interval is that? Let's see. Anya.
The fifth.
Yes. So we'll write 5 here. And do you know if it's harmonic or melodic?
Harmonic.
Yes. And we can put an H here. Perfect. Okay, let's do one more. Let's see. Kathy, can you read these notes? Are they blurry for you?
I think it's a, I can't really see them, but I think it's a G and is it an E? No, that's a G and a
B.
B.
Yes, you got it. You were playing the right note.
I think it's on the line. I'm like, and it would be a third, and it would be melodic then.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you, Kathy. That was awesome.
I can't see with my bifocals that way.
What was that?
I said I can't see with my bifocals.
Oh yeah, that's all right. That is awesome. So those are the intervals, and this is a great worksheet to practice because it'll help you, you know, get in there and start counting those lines and spaces and making clear what those intervals are. So do the rest of these in your practice. You can start by naming the note here in this column in the left, and then using that note to help you figure out what the rest of the intervals are. We're also going to talk about this in our music, and we're going to get chances to find these intervals in our music as well. Does anybody have questions about this worksheet or anything else related to intervals?
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you able to have this where we can like print it out?
Yes, I will put it in, if it's not, I intended to put it in the week 2 folder. So if it's not in there already, I will put it in there so that it's printable. Great question.
Yeah, we'll try to do that by tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, then let's go on to the next slide. And we're going to talk about a couple of these examples. So these examples are also from last week. And so if you looked over the slides, you might have seen them. If not, that's okay. We're going to talk a little bit about them now. But I like these examples because they focus on one hand at a time. And so if you're still feeling like, you know, the notes in combination with the time signatures and all of the symbols is a lot, then these are great examples because they're one hand. So you can really focus on one hand at a time and kind of try to digest some of the other symbols. So let's go ahead and we're going to look at number 2 together. And I'm just going to ask Melissa Young, can you see this? Is this blurry? Is it blurry on your screen? Okay, it's really blurry on my screen. So I'm actually going to just really quickly, Steph, can you take the slide down? I'm going to just put this on the screen as a better format so that we can all see it, because it is a really important example to go over and I want you to actually be able to follow along. So give me just a second. I'm very grateful for technology and the ability to airdrop. I don't know what I would do without airdrop. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna put this up on the screen and hopefully we'll be able to see it a little bit better. Okay, is that better? Can you see that better? Yes, okay, cool. So we're gonna be looking at number 2, which is right here. So number 2, you can see there's a lot of these symbols that we've been talking about, and this is where they all start to come together. So we've got a tempo marking. Our tempo marking is allegro, again, fast and lively. We've got these little dots over the notes, and those mean staccato. You can see there are staccato marks over all of the quarter notes. So we know that the quarter notes are going to be played short and detached. We have this F, which means forte. So it's going to be played loud. And we have our time signature, which is 2/4. So we know that there are 2 beats in each measure. Now, we also have a flat symbol, which we haven't quite talked about, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to explain to you. This little lowercase b means that we go down a half step on the piano. So this note is E. And normally our E would be a white key right here. And the flat next to it means we're going to go to the black key that's right to the left of it in this case. So this is E flat. So we're not going to delve completely into flats right now because we will do that next week. But so that you can play this example, we'll know that this one is E flat. All right, so eventually, after I practice this, I want it to go at a fast and lively tempo. Now, I want to just point out when you are learning a piece of music and it is telling you to play fast and lively, it's not realistic to expect that on the very first playthrough of this, I'm going to be able to play it fast and lively and get all the staccatos and remember to play it forte and remember all of the flats. That's a lot. That's a lot to do on one reading. So we do it in steps. So for my first playing, I'm just going to look at my finger numbers. They want finger number 1 on this C. And I'm going to try to go through and I'm going to get the basic notes. So I want to get the notes correct. And I want to see if I can get the rhythm correct. So I'm going to do what we were doing earlier with Stephanie. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 1, 2, because my time signature is 2/4. So let's see. I'm going to put my thumb on C up here and feel free to follow along if you are at your piano. And I'm going to put my third finger on the E flat because I know that I have E flat in here. And I'm going to try to play the notes and count. So 1, 2, nice and slow, ready, go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Good. So we were playing it slower on this first time so we could get the notes and the rhythm. Now I'm going to look at it again and I'm going to say, okay, I got the rhythm correct. I got the notes correct. Now I'm going to try to play it forte. And I'm going to see if I can make my staccatos even a little bit more short and detached. And I'm also going to see if I can go a little bit faster. All right, so play along with me if you can. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Awesome. Now, if I didn't get all of that correct, I would continue to do that process. But if it's going well, then you can see if you can speed it up even a little bit more until we can get to that allegro tempo. And we have all of the symbols that we see in the music being, done on the keys as well. So the rest of these examples are really wonderful because they all have different combinations of symbols. So you can see number 1 is moderato, number 3 is moderato, and there's these slur lines, which mean to play legato. Then we have a chance to play adagio, allegro, with lots of different combinations. So go ahead and look these up in the folder and see if you can practice them on your own and see if you can try to understand as many things in the score as possible. All right. I'm not sure if I lost you during that, but I was just saying, try to look the rest of those examples up on your own
Awesome.
and see if you can practice them. Can you hear me,
Holds.
everybody?
And yeah, now you're lagging just a little bit. So,
Okay.
but that just
Well,
started happening.
It's perfect for me
So you're
to.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I was just going to say, so now we are going to take a quick little break. We're going to do a little like 2 or 3 minute break. You can either try practicing some of these or go ahead and just, you know, take your eyes off the screen for a minute, and then we'll come back together in about 2 minutes.
If anybody answers. No, everybody's feeling good.
Stephanie, I have a question.
Yes.
So I have a I don't know what you call this, a digital keyboard. So it doesn't do, is it dynamic?
Yes.
So fortissimo and soft, it doesn't recognize that.
Your keyboard.
Am I just stuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's probably a chance that your keyboard just doesn't respond to dynamics and everything like that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a setting. I don't know. That's okay.
All right, everybody. Let's see if we can get started again. Okay, so you're all doing really, really well. I know it's a lot of information that we're throwing at you and a lot of terms and a lot of things that we're covering, but you're doing really, really well if you're keeping up and you always have these slides to go back to. We're gonna do another listening example, and I wanna show you these 2 pieces that are really, really awesome. Listening is a great chance to hear what we're talking about. And you can kind of hear, you know, are there 2 notes being played at the same time? Are there different dynamics? Can you hear forte sounds? Can you hear piano sounds? Do you hear any legatos, notes that are being played smooth and connected? Or do you hear any staccatos, notes that are being played short and detached? So this first piece is called Sliding on the Ice, and it's by a composer named Amy Beach. She was the first woman composer in America to have her works played by a symphony. And this piece is really fun. It's from a set, and it's called Sliding on the Ice. And I chose this piece for the class because I wanted you to just kind of think for a second, if you were watching someone sliding on the ice, whether they're sliding on the ice in an accidental way, in a parking lot or something like that, or whether they are ice skating, there are maybe a couple of images that come to mind. Sliding is somewhat of a smooth motion unless there's falling involved, but the actual sliding is smooth. And I want you to listen for that in this piece and see if you can imagine someone sliding on the ice in whatever way you can. And if you can hear any of that you're imagining represented in the sound of this piece. Okay, so we're gonna listen. It's not very long. It's only a couple minutes.
Thumbs up if you hear it.
Cool. So does anybody have any comments about that? Or were you able to kind of visualize some kind of sliding on the ice? What came to mind for you, if you want to just unmute and share?
I'm just impressed that she was able to get through all of those trills without even like a pause or a skip or anything. Impressive.
There's a lot of notes, right? Good. Do you think that was allegro or adagio? Definitely allegro. Any other comments?
It just reminded me, I saw a show of Donald Duck and like the 3 triplets that he has, and they're like playing the ice hockey game, and they're all kind of sliding around and then jumping and sliding around, and it's all sporadic and then gliding, sporadic gliding.
Yes, I love that, Tracy. That is the perfect image because that's how that piece sounds. You have these smooth, long scale passages where she's just going up and down the piano, kind of interspersed with all of these short little chords. So it has kind of a humorous feel to it for sure. All right, well, we're going to go on. We're going to listen to one more short piece. So this one is, it's also one of my favorites. It's called Ella Scat's A Little Lamb, and it's by a composer who's named Valerie Capers. She's a composer that was living up until just the last, I don't remember exactly when she died, the last 10 years, sometime in the last 10 years. And she was an amazing composer, also coincidentally blind. And she wrote this set called Portraits in Jazz. And there's actually 12 pieces in the set. We're just going to listen to one of them. And every single one of the pieces is inspired by or uses or borrows some tunes from other musicians that are pretty famous. And so this one is Ella Scat's A Little Lamb, and she's combining 2 things. So Ella Fitzgerald, one of the greatest singers of all time, who is very famous for scatting, she is imitating this scatting style on the piano. And then she's scatting a little lamb because you'll hear Mary Had a Little Lamb interspersed in the melody that is being scatted. So it's a really cool piece. And again, a good example of some use of different articulations. So you'll hear short detached sounds that are staccato. You'll hear some legato sounds that are a little bit smoother. So let's go ahead and listen and see what you picture when you hear this.
Oh no.
A little more legato. Good. So these are in these slides as well. So in your folder, you can go back and listen to these, if you want to, and look up these composers. They have other great works as well. All right, we're going to go on and we are going to do a few pieces. And now we're going to try to tie all of this in together and show you some pieces that are digestible and manageable, so that hopefully you can start to put together some of these terms and concepts that we've been going over. And this one, hey, Stephanie, just an idea. I can pull this up as a bigger version and share the screen if you'd like me to. And that way
Sure.
we can see it better. Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. All right, so with this piece, what we're going to do is we're going to work through how to learn a piece. So as Ashley's putting this up, Waltzing Matilda is a pretty short piece, and the first thing that we're going to do when we learn this piece is tap out the rhythm and count out loud. So let's take a look at this wonderful piece, Waltzing Matilda. All right, so we've got a time signature that tells us that we're in 4/4. We also have a tempo here that we will adhere to once we get the rhythm steadily and get the notes. So let's go ahead and go through and clap the rhythm, since it's the most important part. So you'll notice that there's a lot more going on. There we have the tempo, and there's the time signature right here. So this piece has notes both in the treble clef and in the bass clef. So what we're going to focus on right now is the treble clef rhythm. Then we'll focus on the left hand rhythm, and then we'll pat the rhythm and put it hands together. And this will be a great piece to challenge yourself to learn over the course of the week. So let's go ahead and start from the beginning. And we're going to start with a tempo that's a little bit slower than moderato, just so we can be steady. Because again, like I said, the most important thing you can do is get to know the rhythm with a steady beat. So let's go ahead and clap the rhythm from the beginning. I'm going to count 4 beats, and then we're going to come in together. So ready? 1, 2.
Hey, I'm sorry, Stephanie, just to interrupt you. I might have missed this. Are we clapping both hands or the right hand? Or...
No, we're only clapping the right hand for now.
Got it. Sorry, I will.
And remember, we are going to go ahead and keep this rest as a whole rest for 4 beats. This half rest for 2 beats, and don't even pay attention to the bass clef right now, because that'll come later. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this with my right hand and snap it with my left hand so you can have an idea of what you're going to clap. So let's go ahead and clap and count out loud. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that was the right hand part. Any questions with that before we move on to the left hand? All right, so we're going to start from the beginning, and I'm going to count 4 measures just so you can really mark the beat, because rests and note values are created equal. Or, yeah, perfect. Ashley is going to do that. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to snap and count. I'm going to give myself 4 measures for nothing, and then we're going to come in at the beginning, and then we're going to clap and measure 4. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 harmonic second. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that is our left hand rhythm. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pat the rhythm. Right hand pats the top staff, left hand pats the bottom staff. And I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that here. So the right hand will pat, I'll just do the first like 4 measures so you can kind of see what I'm doing. This is my right hand, left hand, I think it's mirrored back to you. But anyway, I'll count in, and then the right hand will pat the treble clef rhythm, and the left hand will pat the bass clef rhythm. All right, here we go. Let's just try the first 4 measures so we can get the hang of this. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good, let's go ahead and try it again. Let's try clapping it or patting it again, and I'm gonna play it. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good, let's go ahead and try it one more time, and then we're gonna keep going. So I'm going to keep playing, and I want you guys to keep patting. So remember, when the notes are stacked on top of each other like that, that means we play them at the same time. So like I said, like we were talking about with intervals earlier, this is a harmonic second, and the more you play harmonic seconds, the easier it's going to be able to read them really quickly. The line and the space smushed together with a stem. Oh yeah, that's a harmonic second. It's really distinct sounding. It's really distinct looking on the staff too. All right, let's take it from the top, and you're going to try to pat all the way through. So if you get lost, try to get back on again. All right, so if you get lost, try to listen to my counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're like, oh, okay, I got a little bit off here, but she's back at 1 again, so that means I'm here. Try to get back on. Or, oh, I heard something crunchy in the left hand. We're back at measure, whatever this is, 8. All right, so let's try from the beginning. 1, 2, patting, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that is Waltzing Matilda. What I would recommend when you're learning this piece, if this is one of the pieces you choose to learn, is once you pat out the rhythm and you're comfortable with that, then learning the right hand by itself, doing it maybe 2 to 4 measures at a time. Notice that they only wrote out 1 finger number here, but you can go ahead and just continue to use finger 3 since it's a repeated note. Since we're going down on the staff, we'll probably go ahead and use finger number 2 here, and we'll probably go ahead and use finger number 1. So the finger numbers become pretty intuitive the more you do it, but feel free in the beginning to go ahead and write in the finger numbers if that's going to help you. And I like to say, don't always start from the beginning and just go all the way to the end. Really try to be intentional about your practicing. So you practice 4 measures, 3 times repetitiously, getting a steady beat, accurate notes, correct fingering, correct dynamics, and all these different things so that you're going deeper with each small section rather than just sort of learning the whole thing. Then you would go on to the next line and do something similar, right? Can you do it 3 times with a steady beat, accurate notes, correct fingering, accurate dynamics, all that good stuff? And if you can, then consider going from the beginning to the end of the second line, right? So it's like you're inchworming your way through the piece, making sure each part of the piece is learned equally well. So any questions with this piece before we move on to the next? No.
Got a lot of practice.
Right. Well, join the club. I mean, you'll find the more you do this, the easier it gets. Is there anything about concept-wise that you want me to cover, or is it just a matter of spending time with the piano?
Spending time. Yeah.
Spending time with the piano. Okay.
There are
Awesome.
there's
So
Oh yeah, I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say we are putting so much music in these folders, and I don't necessarily expect that you're gonna learn all of these pieces or learn every single exercise on every single worksheet. But hopefully, if you look in the folder and you see that there are options of 5 pieces, you can maybe pick 1 or 2 that you're really interested in, that you like, and you can focus on those ones. I mean, awesome. If you're going over all the pieces, that's amazing. But if you're not, that's okay. As long as you're doing this methodical practice like Stephanie's practicing, of really digging into the music and trying to, fully understand an entire piece, you'll be on the right track. Okay, so we've got the next page on the slide is Little Pieces on White Keys by Florence Price, another wonderful composer. I'm gonna say look at these in your own practice. So these are very I don't want to say they're simple, because they might not be simple to you, but they don't have a ton of notes in them. And we're using lots of melodic intervals in these pieces. So it's a lot of playing one note at a time. And so go ahead and take yourself through these pieces and see if you can read some of these notes. We're going to go on to the next slide for now, because I have one other thing that I just want to explain to you really quickly before class gets over, so that we can go deeper into this next week. So we're going to just talk about eighth notes really quickly, one more kind of note. So to refresh, last week we learned quarter notes, half notes, dotted half notes, and whole notes, the notes that get 1, 2, 3, and 4 beats. An eighth note looks like, well, this is actually a pair of eighth notes. So this is 2 eighth notes holding hands, they're beamed together. This is called a beam, and it's a pair of eighth notes because there's 2 of them. This is a single eighth note. We have a note head, which is the little circle part, and the flag, which is this fun little part that comes off of it. And we rarely see single eighth notes, although it does happen. And then this is an eighth rest. And an eighth rest looks kind of like, a number 7. Now, an eighth note or an eighth rest gets a half of 1 beat. And so this is the part in music where my brain starts to get a little fuzzy because I don't like math. But we need to know that an eighth note and an eighth rest get a half of a beat. And when we see 2 eighth notes together, like up here, where they're a pair of eighth notes, those 2 eighth notes played, next to each other take up 1 beat. So far in our music, we've been counting the full beats. We've been counting 1, 2, 3, 4, which when we say 1, that's the first beat, 2 is the second beat, 3 is the third beat, and 4 is the fourth beat. Now, when we start talking about notes that only take up part of a beat, we're subdividing the beat. We're breaking it down into smaller sections. And so we also need to subdivide our counting. And so when we are counting eighth notes, the easiest way to do it is to count the halves of the beat. So instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, I am now going to say 1, and then I'm going to start up here. I'm going to say 1, and I'm going to count the half of 1. So this is the first half, 1, and is the second half. Then I'm going to say beat 2, which is the first half, and is the second half. Then I'm going to say beat 3, and is the second half. Then I'm going to say beat 4, and is the second half. Okay, and so you can see down here, when I get to eighth notes, I would count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, because I'm taking that beat and I'm dividing it in half. I'm subdividing it. And so I'm going to also account for that the way that I do my counting. Another way to think about eighth notes is we can think about words that we already know. And so we can think about quarter notes as walking. So I could go quarter, 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 and then it'd be walking, walk, 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 and then running, 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 running would be the eighth notes. So let's just practice clapping these in a couple of different ways. So we're going to clap 4 quarter notes, and we're going to say run, 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 and then we're going to clap eighth notes, and we're going to say walking, 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 walking. So let's do that together. 1, 2, ready, go. Run, 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 walking, walking, walking. Oh my gosh. I just switched around the words. I'm so sorry. Apologies. We're going to say walk, 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 and then running, 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 running. It doesn't make any sense the other way. Let's go for it. So 1, 2, ready, go. Walk, 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 running, 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 running. There we go. Just for good measure, let's do it one more time. 1, 2, ready, go. walk, 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 running, 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 running. Now what we just did is we counted these. So now we're going to put the numbers with them. So we're going to say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so let's do that together. I'm going to count 4 and then we'll start. So 1, 2, 3, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. Let's do that one more time. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Good. Okay. Very, very nice. So we will see a lot more eighth notes in pieces to come. So if you look at the next slide and the slide after that, we've got Happy Birthday, and we also have Minuet in G. Oh, and one more, another minuet. They all have eighth notes in them. So you don't have to go on and learn those pieces, but if you'd like to and you're understanding eighth notes, you can go ahead and look at those pieces on your own. If not, we will have more of a chance to go over eighth notes next week.
Yeah, so just to take a look at what you will practice for week 3, we'd like for you to pick a piece for the practice performance on week 4 by next week, so that when we go into our breakout rooms, you're feeling prepared to show either Ashley or I will each be designated in a breakout room. Show us what you've been working on, ask your questions, and make sure you're feeling really good. We recommend that you choose any of the pieces in the folders from week 1 or week 2, and you're more than welcome to prepare 2 pieces if you want the challenge, but we encourage all of you to at least learn 1. So make sure that you pick a piece and learn it in the way that Ashley and I have described practicing. Them to know the notes, getting to know the finger numbers, dynamics, articulation, tempo, all that good stuff. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about your pieces over the week as you're practicing. We recommend that you review your note names on the grand staff, and like Ashley said earlier, double what you read last time. And there's tons of apps you can download on your phone to help you out, or the flashcards that were put in the folder are super helpful as well. We recommend that you practice some of this right before bed. Something happens when you sleep that helps your brain make really specific connections that you wake up the next morning and all of a sudden you're able to do a skill you weren't able to do the night before. So if you have it in you before a long day, we highly recommend that maybe you spend even 5 to 10 minutes at the piano or 5 to 10 minutes learning your flashcards. We also would like you to try, if you want a challenge, to compose your own 4-measure rhythm. So if you kind of pass all the way down to here, we have all kinds of really great exercises. What we'd like you to do is just take their note values that you know and 4/4, the time signature at the beginning, and you're going to write out a 4-measure rhythm and be able to clap and count it out loud. You could add dynamics, you could add tempo, you could add articulations. Basically, just how creative can you get with creating your own music? And if you want to take it a step further, you can even try to play it on the piano. It's going to look a lot like the exercises that we took a peek at earlier up here. So this is an example of a 4-measure rhythm, right? And all you would need to do is write out, 1, 2, 3, 4 measures, and then write out a rhythm that would work for you. So that's all we have for you for today. Please make sure that you take a look at the slides over the week and come with a piece to share for the class next time. Anything else to add? Any questions? Any comments? All right. Awesome. Well, you all have a wonderful night, and thanks again for a great class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
All right.